Abby Harding with Edith J. Hayes Middle School for the Veterans Day Project. What's your name?
Hello, my name is Christopher Williams.
And where were you born?
I was born here in Fayette County, in Lexington.
So where did you go to college?
I went to college at the University of Kentucky.
And did you get your degree from there?
I did. I have a bachelor's in education, in middle school education from the University of Kentucky. And I've almost completed my master's degree from Eastern Kentucky in school counseling.
So what branch of service did you serve in?
I was in the National Guard, which is a branch of the Army. And I was in for about 10 years.
And what was your rank?
My rank when I left, I was an E5, which is a sergeant at the time.
That's cool. And did you actually go to war?
I did. So in the Guard, a lot of times you're deployed, and a lot of times for just things that happen in your state. But in 2006, our unit was deployed to Iraq. We were at a place called Taji, which was about 15 miles northeast of Baghdad. So we spent about a year there from 06 to 07. Yes.
And what did you do there?
Well, our job, we were actually a supply company, which nowadays a lot of the supply stuff isn't done by the Army. They outsource a lot of that. So since a lot of the supply jobs, we worked guard towers. We actually, there were lots of towers around the perimeter of the base, and our job was to man those towers in 6-hour shifts.
So what was serving during wartime like?
Well, I was fortunate that I didn't travel a lot. Those who travel, it's a very dangerous thing. So I was very fortunate to get to stay in one place. I was very fortunate to have internet. I was very fortunate to have hot water. So in a lot of ways, I think my deployment was not better, but I just think it was more comfortable than a lot of others. But it's still really difficult. I'd been married for about a year and a half at the time. I did not have children, but I was away from my wife. I saw my wife for about 2 weeks over the course of about 14 months. So that was probably the hardest part.
Yeah, that must have been hard. So how did serving change you in your outlook on life?
Well, I think it grounded me. I mean, I think in a lot of ways I don't get upset about a lot of stuff that may be the nuances of everyday life, because I realize it could be worse, and I think it just gave me a different perspective. It gave me a sense of pride too, to feel as if I did something that a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to do, but a lot have. So I would say it humbled me a lot, especially right when you're getting back. It's just it's a humbling experience to realize how great things are here when you compare it to how bad things can be in other places of the world.
So did it change your relationship with your family?
Yes, it did. It did. When you're gone from your loved ones for a year, and again, there's many individuals that come back and they've dealt with so many traumatic experiences that it is a difficult road back, and we hear about it all the time. Again, I was very lucky with my experiences, but it did. When you're away and someone else is holding it down, and you try to come back and jump into that, and they've been doing their own thing for a year, it's a difficult transition, and it took some time for my wife and I to sort of get back to normal.
Oh, wow. So were there ever times in your service when you were afraid?
Again, I was pretty lucky as far as, we didn't go out on the road a lot. At that time, being on the road is a very dangerous part. But there were some times where what we did, there was a road in front of us, and there were many times when things were left on the road that you may not have saw, and then all of a sudden there was a large explosion that had hit a convoy, and no matter what, that still can be a little scary. And then there was times when our base, they would just shoot mortars into our base, and they would just shoot blind, and wherever they landed, it's where they would land. And one time, one hit pretty close to our barracks, within 100 feet, and you get a little nervous when that happens.
Yeah. So what happened with that when the missile hit your barracks?
Luckily, it hit the intersection of a street. It didn't hit the actual barracks, but we had a building, but there were still streets on this base, and luckily, it landed right there, right at the intersection of the street. So nothing really as far as anyone getting hurt. Very fortunate, no one in our company or on the base was hurt.
That's awesome. So what are some good and bad memories from the war?
Well, I think the good is if you've ever participated in any team or been a part of any experience where there's a group of similar age people, I miss the camaraderie, and I miss the guys and the women that we hung out with. I mean, it was just a year of living this close to somebody. You get to know them very well, and they come back, you really develop some really good friendships. And unfortunately, when you get back and everybody starts doing life again, you kind of part ways, and that happens for a lot of us. So those were probably my best memories. The bad, again, was just being away. I mean, it was always just being away and communicating with my wife. I was fortunate to have a computer, but there were times when we first got there, if anyone got hurt, the whole base would shut down. There was no communication out. They would shut all the internet and everything down. So you would go 2-3 days without speaking to your wife, and everything was fine, but they would kind of wonder, and just that uncertainty of, being away is just a difficult feeling for everybody, I think.
Yeah. So what lessons did you learn about life from this?
Oh, about life. I don't know. I would say that most of my lessons from life, some have been learned in the military. I think most of my lessons have been learned from the mistakes I've made over the course of my life, and I had made plenty. So as far as specific lessons coming back from being in the military, I can't say specifically that I learned any that I haven't learned from just everyday life.
And what are some of those?
Well, it took me a long time, to grow up. I know, I work in a middle school, but I was a middle school boy at one point and made many mistakes. Many mistakes in school, whether behavior or when it came to grades, and just took me a long time to mature enough to realize that I could do better than what I was doing. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And I tell you, once I learned it, it took me a lot of catching up. I was behind. I was way behind. And then I had to work twice as hard to catch up with everybody else who had kind of done their thing for a long time. So I think my work ethic just, learning that work ethic took a long time for me to learn it.
So what do you remember specifically about the war?
I remember lots of things. I can still remember my room, where I slept. There was 5 guys, and I had a sheet as my wall. I can remember just being hot all the time. Always being hot. I can remember lots of things. But I tell you, most of my memories are positive that I have. They're really positive. It was turned out to be a really positive time in my life.
Wow, that's lucky. So where were you when the war ended?
What do you mean? Where was I?
Were you still overseas, or were you back in America?
Okay. So, I guess everyone was officially pulled out in 2014 from Iraq. We left in 2008. So I was home by August. Actually, I got home on August 27th, 2008. So when it ended, I was home, but I don't specifically remember it, because I think the end of this war is not one where, I think if you ask a lot of veterans, where were they on D-Day, and some of those other just really big, even 9/11, I can remember exactly where I was. But this war sort of didn't have that ending that I think was memorable, was more of a pullout. So to say where I was specifically is a really difficult, that's a difficult memory to remember.
Oh, okay. So final question, do you have any advice for our generation?
For your generation, well, I have children. I don't know, I would consider them still part of your all's generation, even though they're probably a little bit younger, but they're gonna grow up in the same time as you. You know, I think, you know, Veterans Day, it's really an important day that we sit back and we think about all the things that people have done. But we have so many people that do stuff for us every day. I mean, it's not just veterans. I mean, it's anybody who's, even around this building, it's someone who's serving you a meal. It's someone who's giving you an encouraging word. You know, it's someone who makes your classroom clean when you come in the morning. And I think one thing piece of advice I would give is always just thank those people. I've never met a person who's been given a thank you and they've been upset about that. Everyone deserves a thank you at some point in their lives. So I would think just not take your situation for granted. You know, don't be bigger than your situation. And I guess that would be the one piece of advice that I would give to you or my kids. You know, it's the same generation.
Okay, well, thank you for your interview. It was very nice.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.